All right. Um, I'm Jack, and here I want to make a video, or videos of going through different filmmakers and or directors or writers and finding their filmography and going from worst to best. Like I know there's a lot of worst to best, but I don't really see a lot for like specific directors, and when I do, I don't think the they could be better. And I feel like or they're not like niche. They're not like from like film certain types of filmmakers that I want to see. Um, and there's like a lot of filmmakers where it's like, how do you even jump in, and what is their worst work and what is their best, and what's the ones to avoid. And because like some of these like filmmakers, like the only way to watch their films is like buying the DVD, and sometimes the DVD is expensive or hard to get reach of, or it's not even in the right region. And a worst to best list wouldn't be a bad idea of trying to go through all that. So without further ado, I've decided to start with someone that I admire greatly and I think is the best writer working in cinema right now, and that's Charlie Kaufman. Charlie Kaufman is a New York writer from New York, and he's written some of the best films ever. Like in my opinion, like films that really connect with me, really are just tightly well written. Don't waste time. Nothing is left. No stone is left unturned with his work. Everything is just like near perfect with what he does. And with this video, I just thought I found it as a good excuse to go through everything he's made and finally be able to say I've seen every Kaufman film. So I went and just grabbed every Kaufman related thing I own on physical media. It's not all of them. Two of them are in the wrong, or either out of print and I couldn't find a copy, or one I could find a copy for, but I got, from what I read, like adaptation, for example, from what I've read, the Blu-ray's not that good, and it's on Netflix. So I was like, okay, like, and I don't really want it on DVD because like I don't like DVDs. I only got one of them on DVD because it's literally the only format it's in, even though it's getting Blu-ray at some point apparently. But I wanted to make this video quickly, and I wanted, and you couldn't stream it, actually, one of these films, so you had to buy the DVD. And I'm glad I did, and I'll explain why. Ranking or counting in the list, there will be a few things I'm not counting in the list. One of them being the TV movie he did, and Chaos Walking. Even though I've been on IMDb and it looks like they removed his credit, so my suspicions of him not really being that involved in the whole project is kind of confirmed now. But yeah, so without further ado, let's do worst to best. Starting with the worst, Confessions of a Dangerous Mind, directed by George Clooney, starring Sam Rockwell, written by Charlie Kaufman, of course. This is Charlie Kaufman's fourth movie, I believe. It's his fourth, and it's his worst, in my opinion. I don't believe it's his fault. I don't think he has anything to blame for what happened with this movie. This film centers around a talk show host that believes, or not really believes, I guess, but is a CIA agent, while also being a like reality TV kind of game show host at the same time. And so he's a hitman and a game show host at the same time, and yeah, it's awful. Oh, not awful. It's incredibly mediocre. This is like a 5 out of 10 film for me. Like, it's really like a standard for what was coming out at the time. The plot feels interesting. It feels like something Kaufman would write well with. It feels like something Kaufman. It feels like a Kaufman film, like the plot does. But like the actual film itself is just incredibly like run of the mill, standard, bland, boring, uninspired. bizarre, like as in like the decisions they made are just like really bizarre. Like there's really boring Blu-ray and Blu-ray let me get the Blu-ray actually. But there's a really boring Blu-ray commentary from George Clooney, which I think they just got from the DVD. I can't imagine he went back and revoiced it. But it's really bad. Like I think George Clooney is the main problem with this whole film. Like I feel like there's flickers of Kaufman in this movie, like in the script there's like remnants of some of stuff he would put in, but there's like so much that has been changed from the original script. And George Clooney even mentions on like the Blu-ray commentary that they changed a lot about the script, and they changed at like nearly everything that Kaufman had originally intended. They say it very subtly. They don't outrightly say it, but they say like little things, and you can find like interviews online of Clooney saying that like the movie would never have been made, and it seems like the film wasn't going to be made until Clooney attached himself, and it feels like Clooney only did what he did in the movie with directing the movie just to get it done as like a favor to someone, because he talks about how like he cut the budget and how they did everything practically, which like a few moments in the film it's actually quite impressive, like the one-ers, but aside from that, like it feels like given to someone or given to Clooney, and they told Clooney, you have to finish this project and it needs to be done right away, and just get it done, like figure out a way. And then Clooney's like, oh yeah, I can get these actors like for cheap. And he says like he got Julia Roberts and I think Sam Rockwell, I might need to fact check that, but he definitely Julia Roberts, he said that he got them for incredibly cheap, and like Drew Barrymore, that was the other person that he got them for really cheap. He said he convinced them to do the film in like for next for nothing, so that the movie could be made. And they cut out a lot, or like he says they couldn't use special effects or anything. But then like you think he might be lying, because you watch the behind the scenes and there's a bunch of stuff they cut out like in the deleted scenes that's like has practical effects, and they just cut it out of the film. And it doesn't really improve the film or anything. Like the film is still shit for like other reasons, but like it's really like I don't really know how much of the truth is coming out of Clooney's mouth. And there's like loads of things that he says that's like I just like my mind was blown when I was watching the behind the scenes. I was like I was literally like, okay, like I didn't pick up on any of these things that you're claiming that you had envisioned for it. Like there's a whole part where he's like, oh yeah, we wanted to like do different film techniques so that the film looks different in different eras, because like, you know, it's a span over 50 years, so we do different filming techniques, which is cool, but it didn't communicate at all. I didn't pick that up at all. Like it just like, I thought the cinematography just looked inconsistent. It looked like they just put a filter over everything. There's like, it looks so dark at certain points, and I was like, why does everything look dark? It looks like they just put a filter on it, or like changed the color adjustment so that it looks so that the blacks become like pure, and like all the whites become pure as well, so it just looks really contrasty. Like the whole like, oh yeah, this looks like the 60s doesn't come through. It doesn't look like it's from the 60s. It looks like you just put a filter over your film. And then there's other parts that look normal, or like I guess like okay, like the color grading. But yeah, honestly, like Charlie Kaufman apparently for an interview, or from what I can find on an interview with Empire, he pretty much said that George Clooney did not involve him. He was shocked at how little involved he was, and they changed everything that he had originally wanted. Like, he wanted the film to be a lot weirder because the book is apparently very weird, and Kaufman wanted to like match the tone with his screenplay, but that's not the movie that Clooney wanted to make. It doesn't even seem like Clooney wanted to make this movie. It just seems like he was either doing someone a favor or like just didn't give a shit. Sam Rockwell, I love Sam Rockwell. I think he's an amazing actor, but he was not good in this. I felt like he was all over the place. like his performance was like up, down, left, and you might say like, oh well, that's his character. I'm like, no, not really. Like, it just felt inconsistent. Like, I have no idea what he was going for at points. Let me see what else is in my notes though for the film. It's like, so I don't think this really, like, I'm counting it as a Kaufman movie, but like, I don't think it's really, because I don't think he had any involvement. I don't think he wanted this movie to be made, or at least like when he did want it to be made, like, definitely changed his mind. Like, if he had, well, yeah, probably Kaufman's worst, but not his fault. There's a funny video of Clooney saying that you know, he's gonna now go back to doing other things so he can make money, like, because I don't think this film made a lot of money.
Yeah, but not for a while. I gotta go make a living somehow. I haven't made a living in a long time, so I gotta do a job I can make some money on.
Kaufman's worst movie, not his fault though. Now we got number 7, which is Human Nature. Got the DVD. See? Oh, yeah. Directed by Michel Gondry and written by Charlie Kaufman. This is their first film together. I didn't even know this film actually, I knew this film existed. I did not know it was directed by Michel Gondry. I always thought their first film together was Eternal Sunshine. But no, Human Nature is Michel Gondry and Charlie Kaufman's first collaboration together. And unlike Confessions of a Dangerous Mind, this feels like a Charlie Kaufman movie. This really feels like something he would have made. I would go as far to say this feels like something that he would have made with Spike Jonze, and from what I gathered, that was what the studio originally intended. They wanted Spike Jonze and Kaufman to team up for this film, but I think Spike Jonze had other things going on at the same time, so he had passed it on to Michel Gondry to direct instead, which I think turned out pretty well. Unlike Confessions of a Dangerous Mind, this is a much better film. This is, even though it's a lot more smaller, it's not as big a movie, it's, you know, it's very, very funny. It centers around a man that's, or a scientist that's really, like, anal about everything and very, like, about table manners. He's obsessed with table manners, and he believes that if you teach mice table manners, you can teach the world to be civilized. The girlfriend being a big protagonist at the start of the movie, and her plot point at the start is that she has like grows up too much like body hair everywhere, and she goes to live in the woods to feel like she's back with nature, and then like she writes a book about how in touch with nature she is, and then goes back into society. Her and the scientist, played by Tim Robbins, and find a man that believes he's an ape. They take him, and Tim Robbins' character believes that if they can teach him how to be civilized, that they can take him on a world tour and show that you can civilize just anyone and teach them, you know, table manners and be a gentleman, I guess. This film is really funny. I found it more funny the second time watching it than the first time. But yeah, it's hilarious. Like, I think this is like the goofiest film that Kaufman's made. It's not as like exhilarating as like his other work, but like, you know, it's funny. Like, there's like a lot of like little like scenes that like just have like hilarious dialogue, like little lines that will catch you off guard. And Michel Gondry does like a really good job. Like, I think his visual style comes through quite well, and it's very fun in its presentation. Like, there's like fun little things that he does with projectors to like in certain like sequences, and yeah, it's like but aside from that, like it feels like a Kaufman movie. It has a real theme of conformity and like sexual repression. Like the main goal of the caveman, the reason the caveman then gives in to and becomes determined to become civilized is because he sees like two characters have sex, and he sees sex for the first time, and he's like, oh yeah, I want to have sex. And so his whole motivations in the film is just to have sex, and then like he does all the stupid bullshit that they tell them to do, and he becomes very posh and like and kind of like a twat, I guess, for lack of a better word. And then Leia goes on to be like an alcoholic and a sex addict. But yeah, it's like hilarious, and there's a real theme of, again, like conformity and feeling like you have to be to a certain standard, and being yourself is not the way to be, because like, and this isn't just reflected in the caveman being repressed and told to act a certain way. This is like reflected in every character in the movie. They're all pretending to be something they're not. Like the scientist is pretending to be like civilized and a gentleman, but really he's like just a prick that looks down on people and is snooty. And then like the French girl is pretending to be French, like when she's clearly American. And the character played by Patricia Arquette is just pretending to be someone that's like of nature, but you know, really she's quite self-conscious of how society sees her still, and that's reflected in the fact that she writes like it's a bit of a piss take that she writes like a book that's like of like along the lines of like I don't care or I don't give a fuck, which like you see like those, which is kind of funny because you see those books like a lot in bookstores, like that will just have the title like how not to give a fuck, and then like, but it's kind of obvious that the people who write those books do give a fuck, like, you know, they're probably very insecure with themselves. And yeah, my biggest complaints about the film, I guess, is that, you know, some of the CGI looked like shit, like the title card at the start looked like shit, and the mice running, some of the mice looked like shit throughout the film, even for the time, and so it hasn't aged well. The only thing I'll say about this film that is worth reading up on, or is worth buying the DVD for, is that there is a commentary track where the scene, it's Michel Gondry and I can't pronounce his name, but Rhys Ifans, I think is how you pronounce his name. There's a commentary track with Michel Gondry and Rhys Ifans, and they're talking about the movie, and it's a pretty boring commentary track. Like, it's alright, like you hear them talk about a few things, and there's a few funny moments, but there is a point in the commentary where Michel Gondry talks about working with Peter Dinklage, and I'm not gonna say what he says, but if anyone else is curious, buy the DVD, go on the commentary, and you will find some like Michel Gondry saying the dumbest fucking thing I'd ever heard. So I don't know, I might upload it. If I can rip the DVD and put it on YouTube, I might do it. But if anyone else wants to, if anyone who's watching this and wants to beat me to it, you're more than welcome. Like, I won't get mad. It's very, yeah, just go find it. Like, I tried finding it on YouTube. I thought someone else would have found it, but it seems like I'm the only person that knows about this. So yeah, overall, Human Nature is a good movie. I like it. I think it has a lot of the old Kaufman-esque things that you would expect from his films, and there's like definitely things that you can pick up on when you repeatedly watch it. So, you know, it's his second worst, but it's not a bad movie. I give it like a 7 out of 10. At number 6 is Adaptation. Everyone's gonna be mad I put it this low. It doesn't mean it's bad. I love this movie, but it's number 6. That's the thing with this list. All of Kaufman's movies are fantastic. All except 2 are fantastic, and Adaptation is one of them. This is Spike Jonze and Charlie Kaufman's second film together, and their last film together. They haven't made a movie since, and it's incredibly meta. This film is a trip from start to finish, in my opinion, and is, to my knowledge, I might need to, you know, I don't know how I would even begin to fact check. I guess maybe just Google keywords, but This is like the only film that I can think of where a fictional character was nominated for an Oscar, which is hilarious. Like, you should look that up, like with Donald, because Donald, like with Donald Kaufman. Similar to Being John Malkovich, both of these movies feel like they shouldn't have, or both this and Being John Malkovich feel like movies that should never have been made, or it's amazing that they got made. They're both amazing, but like when you start reading the behind the scenes, it's like, wow, like how the fuck did this even get made? Like this seems like something a studio like today would just say no. Like they wouldn't take it like as far as these films ended up being. The plot centers around a man named Charlie Kaufman who writes screenplays for Hollywood movies. He's just written a movie called Being John Malkovich, and he's been commissioned or hired to write to adapt a book called The Orchid Thief, and he really struggles with figuring out how to write it, and the whole movie centers around him trying to figure out how to write the movie. And Charlie Kaufman is played by Nicolas Cage, and Charlie Kaufman has a twin brother in this movie that's not real in real life, called Donald Kaufman. It's a very weird plot, and it's great. It's amazing. Like, Nick Cage gives an amazing performance. And I guess another thing to say is that like there's also another story going on with like the author of the book that Kaufman's trying to adapt in the movie, called The Orchid Thief, and that story is Susan Orlean and Swamp Man, both played by Meryl Streep and Chris Cooper. And this is probably Chris Cooper's best role. Like, he won an Oscar for it, and he's pretty fantastic in it. I've never seen Chris Cooper in anything else that I like as much as this. Maybe American Beauty, but apart from that, like, he's really, really great. Like, I don't ever see Chris Cooper. I only see like a character whenever I watch this film. And sort of the same with Meryl Streep, even though I feel like Meryl Streep wasn't that well casted. I don't believe her to be like what Susan Orlean is, like, especially when you look up what Susan Orlean looks like in real life. I don't think Meryl Streep was that well casted, but Meryl Streep does like a great job. Like, I like her a lot in this film. Nick Cage put a lot of effort into this film. Like, he did a really, really great job, and he did like a bunch of interviews apparently with Kaufman, and tape recorded Kaufman and when they would meet up, and Nick Cage had destroyed all the tapes afterwards, so we won't even be able to get that in the behind the scenes or Criterion collection anytime soon, which sucks. But I can imagine it could have been a bit embarrassing or weird, and I can understand if Kaufman didn't want that consumed by the average person. But Nick Cage, great in this film. He plays like two characters technically, and like he has like a different, I always forget that he plays two different characters, which sounds silly to say, but like really, like he really does a good job at capturing at like approaching each character really differently, and it does feel like two different characters. It doesn't just feel like Nick Cage being Nick Cage, even though I love Nick Cage being Nick Cage because he's fucking hilarious in like Vampire's Kiss. But he's great. Like I don't know how much more I can say, really. This is like one of Kaufman more like hardcore what Kaufman like, unlike Human Nature and Confessions, this feels a lot more like what Kaufman always loves to communicate in his films. And one of the biggest theme one of the biggest themes that I took away from this film is the feeling of belonging, like feeling like your place on this planet is meant to be, and that it's not just random, and it's not just unforgiving and indifferent like a pessimistic person might believe the world to be. And I think the theme of feeling belong is shown throughout by the fact that Susan Orlean feels like she's lost. She feels like she doesn't belong in the world. She doesn't feel like she doesn't feel like her life has any purpose or meaning. And she really wants to feel what Chris Cooper's character feels, which is like a passionate love for something, like loving something more than you love yourself, which is admirable and, you know, like depressing at the same time. And I think this is like reinforced even by like Chris Cooper's character talking about like the moth and the orchid, and how a moth with a really long mouth, I guess. He says like a fancier word in the film, but like a long mouth, and it matches with the orchid, and he communicates that both the moth and the orchid, even though they're different, they belong together, and that they're meant to be, like they can't exist without the other. And this really gets to Susan Orlean, because she doesn't feel like she has that. She doesn't feel like she has that in life. And then it like reflects back on Kaufman, because Kaufman feels like he doesn't have that, and he doesn't feel unique. And I think that's even why there's a character, or that doesn't feel unique. He doesn't feel like he has something to feel like he belongs. Like Kaufman, throughout the whole film, he feels like he wants someone to make him feel special, and that's why like there's like just so many scenes of him like fantasizing about women and like just like masturbating throughout the whole film. And even see the real Susan Orlean points this out in an interview that I'll probably show a clip of. And honestly, this film has so many layers. Like you can really dissect it. Like it's like there's like so much that's being said, and like so many little things you can connect. I love how the film talks about Darwin and how everything comes from the same cell, and everything is everything. Everything started off as just one thing, and literally like even this piece of paper is like the same as me. We all came from the same place. And that's the same with like the fact that he's a twin. Like, you know, that's the same identical twins, I believe, are like from the same egg. I'm not a scientist, I don't know much about biology, but I think that's true. And yeah, and it just reinforces, and it goes back into the themes of the film, but it's not in your face. It's not like telling you these are the themes. It's just like you know, it's there and you pick it up as you're watching it. Spike Jonze does a great job, of course. Really talented director, and it's mind-blowing that this is his second film. Like like how many people make a film this fantastic that like and it's like so early into their career, like, or filmography. Like, it's mind-blowing. Great movie. I give it a 9 out of 10. So everything else from here on in, I give it a 10. But yeah, this film is great, and if you haven't seen it, it's on UK Netflix. If you're from the UK, you'll be able to watch it. It's fucking great. I love it. 9 out of 10. Another thing that reinforces the themes of feeling like you need to feel belonged, or you have someone else that makes you feel connected and belonged, is that they keep referencing throughout the film the song Happy Together by the Turtles. Yeah, like I think that's great, and they even play the song at the end of the film, and it's like, it's a great song, and it really matches with the themes of the film. There's points at this film of adaptation that's like incredibly cringe, and like the part where he's trying to ask the girl out on a date is like, I can't watch it. It's like too uncomfortable. And even Nick Cage says it's too uncomfortable. He couldn't do it. Like watching it back. Brian Cox is in the film, and he's like amazing. I really enjoyed his character, even though it was brief. Yeah, watch Being John Malkovich first before you watch this film, because there's like little things that connect up with Being John Malkovich and adaptation. But yeah, I love the film, and give it a 9, and not much else. I mean, the only complaints I would have is that towards the end, I wish certain things were like done a little better, or like some of the performances were a little better. But like overall, the movie's great. I love it. Like, Yeah, 9 out of 10. And the fifth best film by Charlie Kaufman is I'm Thinking of Ending Things. This is Kaufman's third directed movie, and it's his first Netflix film, which is very exciting. Which had me very excited when I heard about this movie getting made. And I guess like he has to go to Netflix because no studio will ever give him money again because of a movie I'll mention later on this list. I'm Thinking of Ending Things. It's based on a novel by Ian Reid, which is a great novel with the same title. It's a really, really great novel. One thing I want to say before talking about the movie is that like I think Ian Reid is a great writer, and I think he didn't get enough credit from other film critics when people were talking about this movie. I think people were a bit dismissive and just read the Wikipedia article on the novel and then were just like, yeah, it just sounds like whatever. But when you read the novel, you get a real appreciation or feeling of dread throughout it, and it feels stressful, and it creates a lot of disturbing imagery in your mind that you're trying to visualize, but it's difficult to visualize, and it adds to the experience really well. If you find that interesting, I think you should definitely read I'm Thinking of Ending Things, and also check out Ian Reid's other novel, which is Foe, which is also a great novel. I own both of them up there on my bookshelf. Both great. I want to read his other book, and he has like a travel book that sounds intriguing. Seems like a really cool dude, and I hope that he continues to write novels. Anyways, the movie I'm Thinking of Ending Things is it is definitely the closest closest thing that Kaufman will ever come to for making a horror movie. There's a shit tons of videos of you can find of people talking about the hidden meaning and message in the movie, of what it's trying to get to. Two things I'll say is, one, this movie is incredible, like Kaufman at his best, and I'm glad that he directs all his movies now and that he doesn't just write them. Like, he has complete creative control over what he does. Another thing is like Jesse Plemons is starting to be one of my favorite actors working right now. I've known about him since like Breaking Bad, because I'm a fan of Breaking Bad, and I'd seen him in some other things, and I always thought he was just like someone that can play a tough guy and that's it. But recently with this film and a few other films, Jesse Plemons is great. Like I think he's a really, really great actor. I can't wait to see where his career goes. And his singing's amazing. I couldn't believe that when I was reading up online that it was actually him singing in the movie. Like, damn. I hope he works with Kaufman in the future. I hope him and Kaufman stay in contact, and I hope Jesse Plemons is up for acting in more movies with. There's not much I can really say about this movie that hasn't already been said. There's like a lot of like analysis videos on this film, and like you can just watch any of them, and they match up pretty well with what I got out of the movie as well. Like, there's nothing that I think I'll say that hasn't been said already. Actually, I need to explain the plot. I just realized I need to explain the plot. It's about a girl that's like wants to end a relationship, and she's on her way to like visit her boyfriend's parents, and she's just constantly thinking of how to end the relationship. And it's a trip. It's a very weird film, and and it makes more sense the more you watch it, and it definitely takes like maybe a second or third time before you realize what the actual plot of the movie is. And I love it. Like, I think Jesse Plemons gives an amazing performance. I think David Thewlis is really great. I think what's her name? Toni Collette is fantastic. I really, really enjoyed her in the movie. And yeah, like, one thing I haven't seen talked about with this movie is the idea of bad films giving you like false hope, or like planting like bad ideas into your head and making you believe a reality that isn't real. Like, there's a scene where like a janitor is watching a really cheesy rom-com, and it's like has like characters that just don't talk like normal people, and like it's like really sappy and stupid. And then like the film ends and it cuts to like directed by Robert Zemeckis, and it's hilarious. I burst out laughing the very first time I saw that. And it's like really true. I was like, this feels like something fucking Robert Zemeckis would make, like, you know, like false reality bullshitty kind of film. But it's not just there as a joke. Like, I think it reflects, or it like lets you know how Jake feels. Like, I guess like because he had all the janitor, like he has like a false sense of life is meant to be, like, you know, he thinks that like there's gonna be a happy ending, and it's even like reflected in the fact that the end scene looks like something from A Beautiful Mind, and A Beautiful Mind being a film that's like directed by Ron Howard, and it's not great. Like, it's like really cheesy and gives this false sense of what mental illness is like, you know, like it's like towards the end it's like, see, he overcame everything and everything's okay, everything's all right now, look, he's winning a Nobel Prize, he's so great. Like, life is great, like which didn't turn out for Jake at the end of the movie. You know, at the end of the movie it just turns out that, like, you know, he never overcame any of his insecurities or anxieties, and that he just like got stuck in this pattern, and now he regrets his whole life. But I won't spoil everything. Kind of spoiled the ending there, but there's a lot to pick up on the film, and I think the film is more of an experience than it is something you get from like a point A, point B narrative. It's a thinking man's movie, and I think it's a film that you'll enjoy from multiple watches. And Kaufman does an amazing job at the directing. The cinematography is like amazing, and the visuals are great, and the writing is great as always. There's like little things you can pick up on, and it's in the same style as Synecdoche, New York, in my opinion. And yeah, I love this film. I don't know what else to say about it. I'm really impressed with what Kaufman can do with a limited budget. Like, you know, he's working with less money these days than he used to, and he's still making films that look better than anything else that anyone with like hundreds of millions of dollars can make. And I hope it, and if this sounds interesting to you, I think you should go and watch the film. I think you should go on Netflix and watch it, and try and get people to, you know, try and get Netflix to commission him or fund his movies again. I think he deserves funding, and I hope he's able to financially be able to continue making films as great as this, as they're in my opinion important for the world. Yeah, give this one a 10 out of 10. And at number 4, Anomalisa. Not that great of a Blu-ray, in my opinion, because you can find like more behind the scenes on YouTube, but you know, pretty good Blu-ray. This is Charlie Kaufman's second directed film, and it's his first animated movie, and so far his only animated movie. This movie feels a lot similar to his earlier work for sure. With the lack of success that Synecdoche, New York got, he had to go through crowdfunding and basically started a Kickstarter alongside with Duke Johnson, and they made a pretty great film together. This film is based on a stage play that Charlie Kaufman had done prior in like the early mid 2000s, and this is a film that they had asked him if he wanted to make into a movie, and he said, basically just told them, if you can get the money then I'll make it. And yeah, like through crowdfunding and through perseverance and through Dino Stantopoulos coming on as producer, and also Dan Harmon, they were able to make this movie. And I'm glad this film exists, because this is like one of the most impressive animated movies ever made, period. And something to know about Dino Stantopoulos is that he's the creator of Moral Oral, which is also a really great show. And he just seems like a really awesome person when it comes to like art and culture. He seems like he really actually gives a shit about art. Like he like Charlie Kaufman has a writing credit on Moral Oral, even though he didn't write any of Moral Oral, because Charlie Kaufman just told Dino a like little story, like just passing through when they were talking to each other, like whether it's on personal or phone, I don't know, but they were just talking to each other casually about something, and Charlie Kaufman gave like an anecdote, and then Dino Stantopoulos liked it, made it into an episode, and because he's a good person, he credited Charlie Kaufman as a writing credit for the episode, which is mind-blowing. Like, you know, it's nice to see that there are people that are that decent in the world. Anyway, Dino Stantopoulos stayed out of the creative process with this film and let Duke Johnson and Charlie Kaufman make what they wanted to make, which is great, and I'm really glad this film got made, because again, it's like one of the best, if not the most impressive animated film ever made. Well, the plot of Anomalisa, I can never say it, Anomalisa, it centers around a man that believes that he is the only real person in the world and that everyone else is the same person. Like literally, like through animation, they reused a lot of the same character models and only used one voice actor for every other character in the movie. So like everyone literally looks the same. And the plot centers around him being a motivational speaker, like for call centers, and he gives advice on how to talk to people. And it's hilarious because like a part of his book is that you treat every customer like they're an individual, which is ironic because he believes that every person, or he sees that every other person in the world is exactly the same. And the plot is just about basically he finds someone else that isn't everyone else and is actually a unique person, and feels like he has to pursue them. He has, you know, they're the only other person, and he pursues them and tries to find a way to make sure they're in his life. What Michael Stone has is based on a thing called Fragoli syndrome, which is referenced in the film because the hotel he stays at is called the I think the hotel manager or hotel receptionist calls it the Ferluge or something, but it, you know, it might Michael Stone like pronounces it Fagoli. Fagoli syndrome is the belief, or the Fagoli delusion is the belief that every single person in the world is the same person and that everyone is just pretending to be other people. And I personally believe that it's a metaphor. I don't think he literally has Fagoli syndrome, even though, like, you know, it's debatable. I think it's just I think there's a lot of instances in the film where you can kind of see into how Michael Stone actually feels about other people. Like, he kind of says that everything's boring and he doesn't really listen to other people when they talk. He always waits to like say his thing, and he's very dismissive, and he's a bit of an asshole. Like, and he's very manipulative, and he always tries to like and he tries to like get his ex-girlfriend to sleep with him, and like she declines, and he, you know, when he's like, oh, it's not working, whatever, get the bill. And then, like, you know, he's a very shitty person, and he doesn't, you know, confront his issues, and he believes he's the only unique person in the world. And then you can kind of tell that he's, you know, like, he doesn't like the cab driver at the start of the movie, and, you know, he's very like, doesn't listen to him. And then, you know, later in the movie he kind of changes his views on a character because they mentioned the zoo. But that's my interpretation. I think it's, you know, debatable whether he actually has it or not. I think he doesn't. I think he's just, you know, like a bit snobbish and self-obsessed. But, you know, like, everyone has their own interpretation. Something I'll talk about more is like what impresses me about the movie is just the technical aspects. Like, there's so many like little subtle facial expressions in this film. Like, there's like parts where like there's like really subtle like movements in the face that's like mind-blowing once you really realize that it's animation. And it's like, and you're like, oh wow, how did they even achieve that? Like, that must have taken forever. But I guess technology is getting better, but it's still impressive. It's like, you don't see, there's like expressions or subtlety in the film that like you don't see even in like Pixar films. Like, I felt like it's mind-blowing to me how underappreciated this film was in terms of how groundbreaking the animation really is. And yeah, like, I think a lot of that is down to Duke Johnson. I think Duke Johnson is probably, based on this, is like one of the best animators alive right now. And I think like the best example of how impressive the animation is through the sex scene. It's like really human, like more human than like films that are live action. Like, and Duke Johnson even said in an interview that they had to create like a new form of technology to do that scene, because like because they said like it took 6 months to make that scene because they kept running into the problem of it looking kind of ridiculous. And I don't know what the trial and error was for that, but what they ended up with, like the end result, is just a really impressive film, or impressive scene, like very, very impressive. And this film, in some ways, even though Michael Stone is kind of an arsehole, and he's not like the nicest person, there is something kind of relatable to his experience of feeling like everyone's the same. Like, it does feel like and Charlie Kaufman even mentioned in an interview that it feels like working in customer service. Like, he said that through his experience of working in customer service, there's like a lot of animosity towards the other person on the other side of the phone, and I guess like when you're only hearing someone's voice through a phone, it can feel like you're talking to the same person over and over again. Even through our life, like I feel like especially like living in England, I feel like there's a lot of people that only think what everyone else is thinking, and no one enjoys, or no one wants to do critical thinking, and everyone would rather just go with what's the normality as opposed to challenging their own perspectives. But I guess that's like true in every country or everywhere. And in that sense, I find Michael Stone to be a bit relatable in some regards, but I don't feel that way all the time. I think everyone has their own problems, which Michael Stone doesn't really realize. My only complaint would be that even though like it has purpose, the mask, like the animation, like it looks like there's like slits here and there's like slits here as well on the characters, which is like obviously the like here as well, like which is obviously to take off the character model so you can place it during animation. And they didn't CGI or remove that in post. And there's a purpose to it, but the problem is that it looks kind of like everyone's wearing glasses throughout the film. Like I always forget that Michael Stone doesn't wear glasses, that he's like, but I always think he is. And it's not the worst thing. It has purpose, like there's intent. It's not just done because they wanted to be cheap, or and even if they were being cheap, like again, like there's purpose. Like it fits in with the themes or what is trying to communicate in the film. Kaufman even said they kept that in because he wanted it to seem like the characters were being controlled by like outside forces, and that everyone wasn't really in control of or making their own decisions in their life. Which is, might be actually true, because in the universe of the film, they're just animated puppets, so they might be literally being controlled by the animator. And, if you're a person that believes in determinism, you might even believe that human beings in real life don't really have control in their life, and that everything is just down to the laws of physics. But, that's debatable, and that's like that's more like philosophical to a certain extent. I think it's one of the best animated films ever made. I think this is for sure a film worth your time and worth watching, and I would pick it up on Blu-ray or rent it on YouTube if I were you. Like, if you're an animator, if you're an aspiring animator, or if you love animation, I think you will love this film. Yeah, this film is just fantastic. This is probably would be my top 3 favorite animated films. This is like next to Lion King for me. And number 3, his third best movie, and one of my all-time favorite for movies, Being John Malkovich. Being John Malkovich. Oh, this film is good. This film is good. This film is very, very good. Being John Malkovich is both Spike Jonze and Charlie Kaufman's debut movie. It's their first movie ever. It's about a failing puppeteer that is forced into getting a day job as a file clerk, and he at this day job he discovers a portal that goes into John Malkovich's mind, and you can be a voyeur and look into and just watch John Malkovich, and through that him and Catherine Keener's character Maxine, through that him and another co-worker decide to make a profit from it and offer people for $200 the experience of becoming John Malkovich for like 15 minutes, and then after 15 minutes you're spat out into the side of a New Jersey I think he says like a New Jersey turnpike. I think that's what he says. I don't really know what any of this terminology is, to be honest, but it's the debut movie for Spike Jonze and Charlie Kaufman, and this is a really weird movie for a debut, but for not just for everyone involved. And it seems like this movie was made by pure luck and a little bit of nepotism on Spike Jonze's part. But despite the fact that this film doesn't seem like it would ever be made, and it doesn't seem like it's something that should have been made because of how odd the script is and how the odds are stacked against it ever being made, this film somehow got made, and it's amazing. It's an amazing debut movie. It's hard to believe that it's a debut movie. Watching behind the scenes footage, it seems like Spike Jonze and Charlie Kaufman worked really hard at convincing John Malkovich to be in the movie, because Malkovich didn't give consent to this screenplay being made. This screenplay was being tossed around Hollywood for like ages before it fell onto the lap of John Malkovich, and Malkovich initially did not want anything to do with it. He thought it was weird. He didn't like it at all. And he said that he liked the writing and he liked the film itself, but he didn't want it with his name. And he originally had said, if we can get a different actor, we'll make the movie, and John Malkovich will direct it, I think is what happened. And then Kaufman said, no, it has to be John Malkovich. It has to be Malkovich. And there's a myth actually that Tom Cruise was the substitute idea, but there was a recent interview with Charlie Kaufman when in promotion of I'm Thinking of Ending Things, and he confirmed that that's just a myth that was never in talks or consideration, which is mind-blowing, because on IMDb trivia that's like one of the trivial facts, at least to my knowledge. I think that's where I read it initially, but yeah, that's not true at all. If you watch like that interview with Kaufman, I'm surprised it got made. There's a great Sardana cast podcast where they talk about this movie and talk about how this film should never have even been made, in theory. But like, Malkovich is such a champ. It's so great to see to know that he got on board after a while. I think it was Francis Ford Coppola had convinced Malkovich to be in the movie. And it's great that he decided to be in the film. I think he was, you know, again, like a real champ. Like he didn't have to be in the movie. It's very weird. He doesn't know these people. They're both like, this is like their debut, Kaufman and Spike Jonze. They're nobodies. Like, he didn't have to be in this film at all, but he was in it anyway. And this film could have ruined his career. It could have been like really like weird, and it could have made Malkovich look like a narcissist, or like, you know, just based on the poster, it could have like really, you know, damaged his reputation. And the fact that he went with the movie anyway and he took that risk is amazing. And you know, I'll always respect Malkovich for the fact that he's in this movie. Like, there's a lot of moments in this movie where Malkovich is like shown to be like an asshole, like unpleasant and not like, or is also shown to be kind of creepy. Like, you know, there's like literally a part where Malkovich is sniffing on women's underwear in like a dream-like sequence. And what's funny is that, like, according to John Malkovich, Kaufman had actually removed those parts when they did the rewrites, and then Malkovich like said to Kaufman like, hey, why did you remove those parts? I like those parts, like put them back in. Which is mind-blowing to me, because like you'd think that you think you wouldn't want that, or you wouldn't want people to think that you do these like kind of asshole-ish things or creepy things. But Malkovich, you know, didn't really view him as a character, and apparently Kaufman tried to talk to Malkovich and say, hey, I've always really respected you as an actor, and tried to be nice to him. And then like apparently John Malkovich was like, you don't need to explain, like I know your feelings towards me, it's okay. Like, it's really funny. And despite how weird the film is, it did really financially really well, and like also received like a bunch of Oscar nominations, which is like mind-blowing for like a debut director to get nominated for like his movie for Oscars. And something I'll say about the film itself, I think you have to watch the film to really enjoy it, because I don't want to spoil anything about the movie, because it's like really just worth watching, and like it's worth experiencing for the first time without knowing anything about it. But something that I love about the film is that like Kaufman's writing, and what I love about his writing really shines through on this. Like everything feels like it really relates to the themes, like especially with the whole marionette aspect to it. It feels like the fact that it's a puppeteer, aspiring puppeteer, or failing puppeteer that discovers the portal, and the fact that he's obsessed with a woman that is very controlling and manipulative, and the fact that he enjoys being Malkovich because like he gets to feel like he's out of his body, which is what attracted him to being a puppeteer in the first place. Everything sticks to the themes. Like everything is what it's supposed to everything relates to each other in the movie. I love how everyone looks like a normal person in the movie. Like the main protagonist looks really scruffy, messy, and like doesn't look like how John Cusack looks at all in real life. And the same with Cameron Diaz. And so much so that like apparently people were always saying that they'd forget it's her and like not recognize her while working on set with her. Drastically unrecognizable in the movie. Like you might not even recognize her at all, or like even know that it's Cameron Diaz whatsoever. This is probably John Cusack, Cameron Diaz, and John Malkovich's best movie. I don't know, of those three, apart from maybe Cameron Diaz and like Shrek 2, I don't really know anything else that those three have been in that I've enjoyed as much. Maybe John Malkovich in Burn After Reading, but like definitely John Cusack. I think like this is probably his best movie. A lot of like throwaway lines throughout this film that feel like they don't mean anything actually come back and mean a lot in the movie, especially when you watch it like the second or third time. Like it feels like everything feels like it has a point to it. It's not just said for the sake of being said. There's a scene early on in the film where John Cusack says that human consciousness is the worst thing to ever happen. And that comes back in the movie towards the end, which I won't spoil, but like it really fits in with the themes of the movie and puts things into perspective for yourself when you talk about consciousness and whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. And there's like another line where like there's like a cliche line of or I guess kind of cliche line of Cameron Diaz's character saying asking John Cusack's character if he's had any more thoughts of having a child, and then like that comes back in later in the movie and really shows and it helps with why certain characters make certain decisions later in the film, and it doesn't just feel like they've made that decision for the sake of it. Like, you know, there's like a lot of lines in this film where like it helps with understanding why characters do certain things, which is like an effort that other filmmakers would never make. And Charlie Kaufman seems like he really sits there and thinks, okay, how do I justify this scene, and how can I introduce information without it being too obvious or uncreative. Something that I haven't seen people say is that, and that I only really discovered when I was watching the, like a mini documentary that's on the Blu-ray, is that they were interviewing the guy who made the marionette, or made a few of them, or was like puppeteering them. I can't remember what his role was, but he said something that he really liked about the movie is that the marionette at the start of the movie, where with the when he's like busking at the start of the film before he gets punched by the by the guy, like something that he pointed out is that it's actually the same marionette, like the female marionette in that scene is the same marionette model that is for Maxine's marionette. And he says like it's really kind of foreshadowing, because it, or at least like what I interpret it as well, it's like it foreshadows it. Like you then understand why he has this weird sudden obsession with Maxine, because it does feel like, at first it does kind of feel like, he's obsessed with her just because she's pretty, but no, it's actually connected to the marionettes, because like the scene that he's reenacting is something that he kind of desires, like, because like the marionettes is an extension of what he wishes to be, which is, plays later into the themes of the movie. And because that marionette looks like Maxine, he's like made the connection between that and Maxine. And I thought that was something I never noticed before, and I'm glad I watched the behind the scenes now, because I would never have known that prior. It just makes you realize that with Charlie Kaufman's movies, that like, you're always picking something up new every time you watch them. He really does a great job of making the experience better and better each time. Yeah, I really love this film, and I'm really glad that I watched all the behind the scenes stuff. The only thing I'll say that I don't like about the film is that some of the shots of Malkovich looking in the mirror look kind of off. Like, they clearly look like they were taken at an angle. I kind of don't get the scene where the guy threw the beer can at Malkovich's head. Like, I don't really know how he knew that was Malkovich, and even if he knew it was Malkovich, like, why would you... Like, because like throughout the film, like people don't know who Malkovich is. It's kind of just like a joke that he's like a known he's a respected actor, but most people don't know who, especially at the time, I guess, like most people don't know who he is, and that was like the joke. And with that beer can scene, it just feels like out of place in my opinion. Though it is funny. Something that's cool though about the movie is that there's like really great there's a really great scene where like there's a fake documentary that I think you can watch on the behind the scenes of the Blu-ray, and on the fake documentary you got like cameos from like Brad Pitt, David Fincher, and who else was it? Sean Penn is in it as well. It's really funny and like bizarre. It's like a very young David Fincher as well. It's like, when year did this come out? Like 2001? I think this came out in 1999. Damn. So 1999, that might have been a pre-Alien 3 David Fincher. Might need to look that one up. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about this film. It's one of the best movies made. There's a little on the behind the scenes, there's a little moment where Spike Jonze is trying to get Charlie Kaufman to like talk into the camera as like promotion, and Charlie Kaufman just laughs and goes, "Who cares?" and then walks off, which is like so funny, and it kind of makes his character in adaptation feel like he's in the actual behind the scenes of being John Malkovich. Yeah, great movie. Fantastic movie for a debut. I would recommend it to everyone, and I think it's Charlie Kaufman's third best movie. Charlie Kaufman's second best movie, in my personal opinion, is, if you haven't worked it out already, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Probably the best movie of 2004. Charlie Kaufman's talents as a writer really shine through on this particular film. It's probably his best movie. Well, it's his second. It's, in my opinion, his second best movie in terms of like his screenplay. and he's working with Michel Gondry again on this, and he had worked with Michel Gondry on this again, and they had a really great collaboration as to what they both wanted for this film, and it turned out amazing. The film is about a man who's just gotten out of a serious relationship, and he can't go back to it, and he hires a clinic to erase his memory, and through the erasing process, he changes his mind, and he tries to find a way to wake himself up from for lack of better word, treatment. He tries to wake himself up before his memories of her is gone. The script is so detailed. Like, everything is just so, like, tightly written, and based on the behind the scenes, it seems like they trimmed the movie down so that it was, like, fast paced and, like, keeping and making sure that information is still there that is necessary. And Kaufman, like, his screenplay, like, is just fantastic. Like, this is like one of the best things ever written ever. Like for example, you can pick up like there's so many other movies that will make it obvious, or like will not find creative ways to show when a character's been through something traumatic or has been through a relationship. Like, there'll be like some stupid scene where a character is like, you know, talking to a friend, and the friend is like, "It's been, how long have we been together for?" But and then like the character says how long, even though like in real life people don't really talk like that. But with Charlie Kaufman, like, he finds a creative way of communicating that same information. Like, for example, with Joel's Notebook, where Joel is, you know, if you watch the movie and you know that the start is not really the first time that him and Jim Carrey's character Joel, it's not the first time that he meets Kate Winslet's character Clementine. It's not the first time they met. There's a scene where Joel is going through a notebook, and he sees that he hasn't written a journal entry for 2 years. And if you watch the movie multiple times, you'll be able to be like, oh, so that 2 years was his relationship with Clementine. So it's a clever way of like communicating that information without it being like obvious. Like, you know, there's no stupid scene where like where a character's like friend is like, "How long were you two together with anyway?" Like, you know, like every other fucking movie would be like. Yeah, debatably this is Kate Winslet and Jim Carrey's like best performances. Like, you know, I like Kate Winslet a lot. I think she's like a great actress, but like I really enjoy her like the most in this movie in particular. And Jim Carrey, I think this is just his best performance. I don't think he's ever done anything as good as this movie. Even though he's a, you know, great was a great comedian. And, you know, one of the best actors working at the time, but like he's really, really great in this. And yeah, it's interesting because like Kate Winslet even said that it doesn't feel like a movie that she usually makes, and it doesn't feel like a movie that Jim Carrey usually makes. And she even noted that they kind of switched roles. Like, she was acting more like Jim Carrey, and Jim Carrey was kind of more acting like what you would expect Kate Winslet to be in a movie. And that swap is that leaving them out of their comfort zones for this film, in my opinion, works really well. Like, they both approach their characters in a way that's like really great, and they feel like normal, down to earth people. They don't feel like they're just doing the usual routine of what they're both capable of acting wise. They feel like real people, and you can really see it through their performances. Based on the behind the scenes, it seems like they had like a completely different approach to what they initially were gonna go for. But I kind of like how what we ended up with, because like based on the behind the scenes, there seems to be a lot of plot hole, like stuff that would just introduce like plot holes. I can't remember 100% what those were, but yeah, like I just like what we ended up with. I think it's like a really tightly put together film. There's a real rhythm to everything to the movie because of the editing, like a real like bam 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 with the information. And the music is amazing. I really love the music in the film. Like John Bryan does a fantastic job. I think this is probably my second favorite soundtrack from John Bryan. Yeah, like there was like so much like on the behind the scenes. It seems like he did like a lot of effort into into making the movie sound great. And even just how music is used in the film is so purposeful. Like when Clementine and Joel are meeting for the first, not really first time at the start of the movie, the music is used so that like there's like a rhythm to when they're talking to each other. Like when they stop talking, the music's gone, and then when they start talking, they bring the music back in. It's like a little touch, and it kind of communicates what they're trying to say about these two characters, which is like more creative than most other movies would be. Side note, there's like a J Electronica album that's based on the soundtrack of Eternal Sunshine. I don't like it personally. A lot of hip hop heads love it, but for me, not that amazing. It just kind of sounds like not that creative of plunderphonics in my opinion. But you know, it's worth knowing and it's worth checking out if you're a big fan of J Electronica. You might love that tape if you're not even aware that it exists. But yeah. Honestly, I'm a little biased. This film, like, I saw this is like the first Kaufman movie I ever saw, and I saw it when I was like 15 or 14. It's like on DVD, and it holds a special place in my heart. I think it's like one of the best movies ever made. I think I really connect with Joel as a character. I really see a lot of myself in him. Yeah, the journal aspects for sure. Like I really related to. I mean, I got like loads of journals at the bottom there, and I can pick up lots of periods of my life and know exactly what I was thinking at the time, and it's like a little time capsule, which is makes me relate to Joel a lot, and I feel like yeah. And something that's kind of interesting about Eternal Sunshine is that it kind of like reflects what human beings like, the human experience of a relationship really well, and especially with a relationship that ends, like Joel and Clementine, I think represent like what a lot of people go through in relationships, and also like with social media these days, like when someone gets out of a relationship, people immediately just go to like deleting everything. And an interviewer actually pointed this out to Kaufman when he was promoting his novel, and pointed out that people immediately go to delete any remnants or pictures or posts related to the significant other that they've gotten out of a relationship with. And Kaufman found that funny, and it is kind of mind-blowing that like how kind of how true this movie really is into human relationships. And I'd give this film a 10 out of 10. It's really creative. I think Michel Gondry did a really good job with the visual side of things. I think it has an amazing soundtrack. I think it has an amazing performance, and I think it's really powerful. And if you've ever been in a tough relationship, I think you'll like that has ended. Like I think you'll really relate to this movie and connect with it. Yeah, and it's Kaufman's second best movie. Now, Kaufman's best movie, Synecdoche, New York. This is Charlie Kaufman's directorial debut, and in my opinion, it's I've watched this film like 5 times now for like preparing to make this worst to best. And before this, I used to say my favorite movie was There Will Be Blood, and then my second favorite film was Synecdoche, New York, and now I think I've swapped them around. I think this is probably one of the, if not the best movie ever made. Like it's phenomenal. Like this is filmmaking at its best. This is like writing at its best. This is like everything at its best. This film is a lot. This film is incredibly heavy, and yeah, it's again Charlie Kaufman's debut film, directorial debut. And this film is about a lot of things. This film's about like life. It's about like regret. It's about not living your life to the fullest. It's about having purpose. It's about, what's funny is that this film is almost like every theme that Charlie Kaufman has tackled in different ways. It's like every idea that he's ever tried to express in his other movies but put into one movie. And it is like a reflection of life itself. And it has a genius title, like synecdoche, meaning that, like, for example, when someone says England is playing tonight, they don't mean England, the country. They mean just specifically the team. And that is pretty much what the movie is. The movie is talking about life itself, and it's talking about the human experience, but specifically the human experience in New York, and specifically in Schenectady, which is the town that, or the part of New York that the movie is set in. And that's kind of genius for a title. The movie follows a man called Caden Goddard. He has like a family, and he's a stage play director, and his wife is a painter. And his wife one day ups and leaves him because for a myriad of reasons. But they split up, and she never comes back. And the film is then him being offered a genius grant by the MacArthur Foundation. And they give him an endless amount of money to make something that is profound for the community and for him at large, or for the community at large. And the movie is just him making this stage play that he's obsessed with the idea of making something that is true, honest, and brutal. And through that, the film itself is true, honest, and brutal. Like this film is like mainly about death, and like the fact that we won't live forever. Like everyone, including yourself watching this, and including me, everyone is gonna die one day. And it's can be very scary. It's something that the main character of the film is obsessed with. He thinks that, you know, he's upset, he's convinced he's dying throughout the movie, which he is. And it's kind of fitting, and it's kind of sad that Philip Seymour Hoffman actually passed away. And when he died, I definitely watched this film immediately after, because I was like, wow, this is like really fits in with kind of the themes of how death, like even a character in the movie says that death comes sooner than you think. I remember the first time watching this film, I was like I felt kind of sick, because like I thought that I didn't really get the dream logic of it. But the second and third time, I became more comfortable with what I was watching, and I realized that it is a sort of a dream movie, and it is very like purposeful in the fact that it's dreamlike. And I didn't really get the whole dread and despair, but as I'm going older, and I'm 23 now, turning 24 soon, I find myself being really captivated, and finding myself relating to Caden more and more. And yeah, this film makes me think about how fast time goes, and how depressing everything can be, and living your life in regret, and feeling like you're not really living life to the fullest, and making you feel like you can't really do the things you want to do in life, because you know you have your personal self holding you back. And I suspect that as I get older, if I have the privilege of living till I'm old, I think that I will start to relate to this movie more and more, and I will find myself maybe being more like either Caden or Adele in the movie. But time is a really big theme in this movie. Everything moves really fast. Like there's a great analysis video from like YMS that talks about like just goes in depth for this movie much better, and I don't think I'm gonna say anything that hasn't already been said about this movie. But one thing that I will say is that like Caden's obsession with something that I relate to a lot with this movie. Caden's obsession with he's like a hypochondriac. He thinks he's always sick. He thinks he's always dying. And something that I think I haven't seen other people talk about is that like with hypochondria, when I was going through a tough time in my personal life when I was much younger, I'd never been the type of person to be a hypochondriac, but when I was in denial about something, I suddenly became a hypochondriac, and I was convinced I had cancer all the time, and I was convinced that I was dying, and I was always looking for things like I was always looking at my gums thinking there was a lump or something. And when I watched Synecdoche, New York, now that I'm not like that anymore, when I watched Synecdoche, New York, even just recently, like for this video, I found myself really relating or understanding why Caden's obsessed with always looking at things and being like, oh yeah, I'm dying, and looking for problems where there isn't any. It's because he's probably in denial about the fact that his wife doesn't love him and that his wife and child left him to start a new life. It's it's really sad and depressing and kind of like makes me see myself in the character. But this is Kaufman's like most ambitious film. Feels like he had complete control in everything. It feels like a movie like this will never get made ever again, which is a shame because I wish more movies like this existed. I know I'm thinking of Ending Things was a movie similar to this movie, but for sure this film was I really wish more films like this existed, in my opinion. I don't think there's anything, maybe aside from like The Holy Mountain, there's like no film that's like this, like in depth with everything, and this this meta, I guess. It's like a really impressive, really like really out there film, and in my opinion, Philip Seymour Hoffman gives the best performance ever in this film. He's fantastic from start to finish. Also, Samantha Morton is also fantastic. I really enjoyed when she got older. She her mannerisms and everything changed, and I thought that was really great. So does Philip Seymour Hoffman's. I feel like his character's like really different from towards the end than he was at the start, which is like purposeful. And also the music in this film is phenomenal. Before I said that John Bryan, Eternal Sunshine was John Bryan's second best soundtrack. His best soundtrack is Synecdoche, New York. It's like really, really, really good. So much effort got put into it. Even like Charlie Kaufman went as far as to writing the lyrics for 3 of the songs in the soundtrack. One of them being Schenectady, which is like my favorite track off the soundtrack, which is like this really kind of like barbershop-esque jazzy song with like these incredibly depressing and sad lyrics about how like there's always a last time and there's always a never again. But John Bryan probably did an amazing job. And the soundtrack actually even helps with explaining the film, like because like each song in the soundtrack has a title like a place you can never go back to, or sex-based decision making and stuff like that, and or song for Caden. And what's great is that when those songs play in the movie itself, you can look at the soundtrack and then go to the movie, and then it gives you insight into what the scene is and what Caden might be thinking or feeling. And it's almost like you're playing like this puzzle, and like everything that isn't in the movie or everything around the movie helps with understanding the movie even more. It's like incredibly meta. It's almost like a code. It's almost like conspiracy-ish, like the guy from Under the Silver Lake when he discovers the lunchbox, the cereal box, and the music. All music is related to each other, but that's something else entirely. This film really fills me with introspection. This film really makes me think about my own life and what life is, and I think this is like one of the closest true reflections to the human experience ever. But then again, it is only a reflection of specifically the human experience of Caden, hence the title Synecdoche, New York, as I explained. Yeah, there's a great monologue and the funeral. It's called The Funeral Scene. If you don't want to watch the whole film, just type in Synecdoche, New York's funeral scene. There's like a great monologue that really feels honest and brutal and true, and fills you with introspection, I guess. And it has like one of the best endings to a film ever. And this film really defines what good screenplay writing is. I think that's for every movie by Charlie Kaufman. I think if you haven't seen any of his movies, or you haven't seen all of them, I recommend seeing them all, except Confessions of a Dangerous Mind. And this was a lot of fun to make. I'm gonna hopefully do another one of these worst to best. I think I know who I want to do next. But yeah, go check these movies out and subscribe. And thank you for watching. Bye bye.